You know, Disney World can be a lonely place on a Saturday night. And this is only Thursday morning. But at least I've got this Dole Whip to keep me company. Welcome to Chandler's Travels. I'm Chandler O'Quinn. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Polynesian Resort at Walt Disney World. We're going to be talking a little bit about Beatles history. Believe it or not, this is the place where the Beatles ended in 1974. So stick around, you'll get to hear that whole story. Hope you'll enjoy it. I know I'll enjoy this. Big bite. So, once again, how do we get to the Beatles ending at Walt Disney World? Well, first we got to go a few steps back and talk about why did the Beatles end? I think the easiest way to start the story is when Brian Epstein died. So Brian Epstein dies in 1967, and this was very unexpected. They'd been working with them since the very beginning, and he kind of set everything up, kind of gave them their whole identity, and took them away from the leather coats that they were playing in Hamburg and put them in nice Italian suits, and really gave them a solid identity. And Brian Epstein was a great talent manager, but maybe not the best business manager. So there were, the Beatles funds were not put in all the best places. And that meant that once he died, it was kind of hard to figure out where all the money was and where it was supposed to be. And they lost their great talent manager, the person who could kind of meld all the personalities together. There's a lot of people who say that Brian Epstein was the fifth Beatle. That credit also goes to George Martin, their producer. It sometimes goes to Billy Preston during the Get Back sessions. But in any case, with Brian Epstein's passing, that left the Beatles kind of adrift. Paul kind of takes the step to take that leadership role. He makes the whole Magical Mystery Tour movie. You ever see that movie? That's a weird movie. All the Beatles movies are a little weird, but that one's far out, as they might say. And that gets straight into 68 with the White Album. And by the time that they record the White Album, they're going in so many different directions, and the personalities just aren't there anymore, that Ringo quits. Ringo quits during the production of the White Album. He then comes back. They get through it. They get through Hey Jude and All You Need Is Love. And they get into the Get Back sessions. And George quits because, George is sitting on this bank of some of the greatest songs ever written. And Paul still kind of treats him like a little brother. Literally something. The greatest love song ever written. And they're like, well, maybe we'll put it on the album, maybe we won't, we'll see if it fits in. So George quits, he comes back, they get through Abbey Road, and all this time, the Beatles tried to expand the business. They needed a new business manager, they got into film producing and record producing and fashion and technology and all these crazy things. So they're doing all these things. They need somebody to be looking after the funds. They're just, four lads from Liverpool in their late 20s. They don't know what they're doing. And they decide that they want somebody like the Rolling Stones has. They want Alan Klein. Well, the Stones are realizing that Alan Klein is not a good guy. He's not a good business manager. But even though they tell John Lennon that, John is so set on having Alan Klein. He wants the same deal that the Stones have. So they get Alan Klein involved, and Paul wants nothing to do with it, and Paul wants his future father-in-law, Mr. Eastman, to do it, and, well, all the other Beatles who are already kind of distrusting of each other, as it is. I mean, you've been working with the same people for 15 years, not that long, 10 years, but at the pinnacle of fame and everything, all the hectic Beatlemania, and these are the same three people you've been looking at to go through this with. They were kind of sick of each other. It gets to the point where by September of '69, John wants a divorce from the Beatles, and then Paul officially quits the Beatles in April of 1970, releases his own solo album. But the problem is that the Beatles don't own the Beatles' work. It's all tied up in legal red tape and finances and all these things. So Paul figures out that the only way to try and get ownership back is to sue the Beatles. Not necessarily the men, but the entity, the company, the Beatles, to sue Alan Klein to get ownership back. And the rest of the Beatles didn't see it that way. They saw it as Paul suing them personally, and it was just a bitter lawsuit. And the actual entity, the legal entity of the Beatles, is tied up in so much red tape going through 70, 71, 72, 73, all the way through to 74. And in December of 1974, the final papers are drawn up to disassemble the entity, the legal entity of the Beatles. Ringo signs his name in England. They then go to New York, and the rest of them, the three that started it, John and Paul and George, were all going to do it at a hotel in New York. And John Lennon, and this is like early December 1974, and John Lennon says the stall's all right. And so he leaves without signing the papers. Nobody knows where he goes. They finally track him down here to Disney World. So this is during his whole long weekend phase where he's not with Yoko, he's with May Pang. So he takes May Pang and his son down here to Disney. Well, first they go, I think, to Palm Beach, and then they come here to spend Christmas. And it is at the Samoa Longhouse, maybe. There's some disagreement about which longhouse it is, which room it is. But some people say that it's the Samoa Longhouse, where the final meeting of the Beatles' lawyer, not even the rest of the Beatles, but John and the Beatles' lawyer would happen. And we'll show that in just a moment. So while John was staying here with the family, they befriended a monorail driver named Harold East. And they got to ride the nose cone all the time, anytime they want. Pretty good treatment for a Beatle. And at the end of the vacation, they asked Harold, do you want to get a picture with us? And Harold didn't have a camera, so they said, we'll wait. And so he must have gone downstairs to the gift shop or something, found a Kodak, came back up and got a picture with John and Julian and May Pang. And then another story about John staying here is that he's down at the Magic Kingdom, and there's this dad who goes, you're a Beatle, aren't you? And then he stood there for like 5 minutes trying to figure out which one before settling on George. So yeah, those are just another few stories from John Lennon staying here at the Polynesian. So this is pretty much the conventional wisdom was that it took place in the Samoa Longhouse. Some people say it was room 1601. May Pang denies that it was 1601, but it kind of fits with the rest of the story. So in the Samoa Longhouse, John was staying with May, with, I believe it's either Sean or Julian. I'm sure I'll fix that in editing. Was staying with them, and then a record producer for Island Records, I think. So they're staying in that room. The lawyer finally tracks them down, sends him the papers. He's there with the papers to dissolve the Beatles. And before he does so, he grabs May Pang. He says, "Get your camera, take a picture of this." And one last thing that he does is he kind of looks wistfully out on the Seven Seas Lagoon. You can see the Magic Kingdom in the distance. And then he picks up the pen and he signs his name, and the Beatles were dissolved. And that happened December 29th, 1974, right there, Samoa Longhouse, the Polynesian Resort at Walt Disney World. And that's it. That was the end of what many would say, and what I might even say is the greatest band that ever happened. Whether you're in complete agreement with that, if you think that they get too much credit, I don't know what to tell you. Completely transformed rock and roll music and popular music, brought the country back from the brink of utter despair after the Kennedy assassination in February of 1964, completely revolutionized technology and recording and music, and reintroduced American rock and roll to Americans. And all that legacy officially and legally came to an end right here. Well, that is it for this episode of History in Retrograde. History in Retrograde, how about that? That's a podcast that I host with my mom. That's the end for this episode of Chandler's Travels. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you later on down the trail. Via con Dios.